Hi guys! Today it is finally time for me to share my annual sunscreen showdown. I have been doing this for the past 6 or 7 summers. It's been a lot. I have a whole playlist of all my past sunscreen showdowns that I'll list down below, but this time I tested 16 Korean and Japanese chemical and hybrid sunscreens from YesStyle, and I'm going to be ranking them from my least favorite to my favorite. I also wanted to give a huge shout out to YesStyle for sponsoring today's video. This is the first time that they have actually sponsored one of my videos, but definitely not the first time that I have shared my love for YesStyle. If you aren't familiar with YesStyle, it's my go-to for all things Asian beauty, specifically Asian sunscreens. They have so many options over there. And the great thing about this video is that they gave me no specific talking points. They left all of the creative freedom up to me, which I so appreciate. They did just want me to share that I have a discount code. If you do choose to purchase any of the sunscreens that I share today, or anything else on YesStyle for that matter, you can feel free to use my discount code SUNSARAH15 for 15% off your order, and that code will be good for the next 48 hours after this video goes live. After that, if you happen to be watching this video later on, I do have an ongoing 10% off code as well, which is just Sarah Rose. So if the other code is no longer valid, you can feel free to use that one as well. And if you do purchase through any of the links that I list in the description box, I will earn a commission as well, which I really appreciate if you do. So a little background on today's roundup, and then I will also have timestamps down below if you just want to skip ahead to a certain sunscreen to hear about it. Like I said, I've been exploring the vast world of Asian sunscreens for the past couple of years, and I live in the US, so prior to that I really had only been exposed, unfortunately, to Western sunscreens. I did do 2 YesStyle sunscreen roundups last year that I'll link below as well if you want to see those. I found some really amazing options in those 2 videos as well. So this time I wanted to try more Korean sunscreens, but also some Japanese sunscreens because I hadn't tried any of those before. And I was also hoping to find a good water resistant option because last year none of the ones that I reviewed were water resistant. And what I look for in a good face sunscreen is something that sinks in quickly, that's lightweight, doesn't feel heavy, doesn't leave a cast, wears well under makeup. One of the most important things I look for is something that doesn't burn my eyes because especially a lot of Western chemical sunscreens they burn and sting the eyes so much, and I just can't stand that. I do like to apply sunscreen to my under eyes and my eyelids, just because that skin is also vulnerable to the sun's rays. So I'm looking for one that doesn't burn and sting my eyeballs, please and thank you. Like, I cannot stand that. So for all 16 of the sunscreens I'm reviewing today, you'll see a demo clip of me applying a 1/4 teaspoon of the sunscreen to my face and neck. Then you'll see a clip of what it looks like after it has had a chance to sink in after about 10 to 15 minutes. And then also what it looks like underneath foundation and powder because I do wear makeup pretty often and I like for my sunscreens to play well with makeup. For all of those demo clips, I used the same makeup products, the ColourPop Pretty Fresh foundation and the CoverGirl Clean Fresh pressed powder, just to keep things super consistent. One last note before we get into the sunscreens, I have been testing these out during a pretty dry time of year. I live in the Pacific Northwest where it actually gets kind of dry in the summertime, which I'm not used to. I'm actually from the South where it's just humid as all get out year round. So I'm really not that used to a dry climate. And this has really opened up my eyes to how much the humidity in the air affects the way products wear, because some of these sunscreens wear completely differently on a dry day versus a more humid day. So I will definitely try to mention that wherever it's relevant. Anyway, I think all of the information that you need is out of the way, so let's go ahead and hop into the sunscreens, starting with my least favorite. Number 16, my least favorite sunscreen that I've tried here is the Allie Gel UV Ex. This has SPF 50+, PA 4+, as do most of these. This is a hybrid sunscreen, so it does have a couple of the new generation filters, which are Uvinol T150 and Mexoril XL. And then it also has a mineral filter, zinc oxide. I think this is the only one in this lineup that has zinc oxide in it. This is water resistant, which is awesome, but unfortunately I just found this way too drying. I wore it a couple days in a row, and I just felt like it sucked all of the moisture out of my skin, and it took my skin like a week to recover. So unfortunately, I think this is just too drying. Between the zinc oxide and the ethanol, this does have ethanol, which is a type of alcohol. I think those two things together just make this a little too drying for my skin, but if you have super oily skin, you might have a totally different experience. Oh yeah, and I guess I should say my skin type too. which I feel like changes a lot depending on the humidity in the air, but I would describe my skin type as combo. Some days it's more oily, some days it's super dry, some days it's somewhere in the middle. But I am prone to dryness, and this one really dried my skin out, unfortunately. It does have a mildly glowy finish, and I found it just felt a little bit heavy on my skin. Like, it's one of those that I can just kind of feel sitting on my skin, and I don't love that. I also didn't really like the way my makeup applied on top of this. I found that it looked dry, kind of separated, a little patchy. So this is just not quite the right formula for my face, but I think I will go ahead and use this up on my body. Coming in at number 15, we have the Axis Y Biome Double Defense Sunscreen. This one also has SPF 50 plus PA 4 pluses, which is the highest PA rating. PA, I believe, just measures how good the UVA protection is of a sunscreen. Whew, okay, this one is scented. Scented. Oh my goodness. This has a kind of a long list of different fragrance ingredients, but the one that I smell the most is the patchouli. This smells like straight up patchouli to me, which is not a smell that I am fond of. But not only is it scented, which I don't always mind if something has a scent, but this scent lingers. I will smell it on my face all day long. I feel like sometimes I can even taste the scent in my mouth. So because of all that, I just can't get behind this one. This does have quite a few new generation filters as well as some old generation filters, octisalate and homosalate, which I can smell. I'm sure you're probably familiar with that just classic chemical sunscreen smell. Underneath all the fragrance in here, it has that smell as well, and I do try to point that out if I notice that smell, because personally I hate that smell, and sometimes I feel like I can taste it. Other than that, it does have an elegant texture. It's like a lightweight gel cream. It sinks in quickly, leaves behind really a skin-like finish with just a little bit of glow. It's not the most glowy sunscreen that I've ever tried by any means, but it's also not matte. And it does stay a tiny bit sticky on my skin even after it dries down. As far as the way it wore under makeup, I did feel like it kind of just made my makeup slide around on top a little bit, and it did break down before the end of the day, so wasn't my favorite under makeup. So you can probably see why I ranked this one so low. It's definitely not terrible, but I won't be using this up on my face, I can tell you that. I'll try to use it up on like my hands or my body, but for my face, I just cannot stand that smell. I did try a few more from Isntree. Last year I tried 2 Isntree sunscreens that I didn't really love, the mineral one, and then I also tried the hyaluronic acid watery sun gel, which I do still have. This time I tried a few. This was my lowest ranked one, obviously. This is coming in at number 14. This is the Isntree Hyaluronic Acid Daily Sun Gel, and this one has only an SPF of 30 and PA 3 pluses, not 4. So this has the lowest SPF rating of all of these that we're discussing today. I was mostly curious to try this to compare it to the Watery Sun Gel because, as you can see, the packaging is really similar. They have very similar names, and I was just kind of like, okay, what's the difference between these two? So the Daily Sun Gel, this one only has old generation chemical filters, homosalate, octisalate, and avobenzone. It does have that standard chemical sunscreen smell, which I also noticed in the Watery Sun Gel. And if you remember from last year, I really didn't love the Watery Sun Gel. It wasn't bad, but I just felt like it was not moisturizing enough, and I didn't like the smell. That was pretty much it. I have done a side-by-side wear test with these two a couple of times, and I noticed no difference between the two in as far as the way they wear, the way they feel, the way they apply. They feel identical. So I would say if you are trying to pick between these two, I would recommend just going for the Watery Sun Gel because it has a higher SPF and a higher PA rating. But the Daily Sun Gel, as the name would imply, it has kind of a gel texture, very lightweight, it does sink in quickly. I did find it just a little bit drying, and because of that, not great under makeup. My makeup just looked dry on top of this. Overall, I just feel like this one is pretty unremarkable. It's not bad. I did have Nathan try this one. I had him try as many of these as I had time to have him try. Mainly had him try my top picks because I wanted to figure out how to rank them best. But I did have him try this one, and he said it was just okay, but he had a hard time blending this into his facial hair. He does have a beard, so it was really helpful to see which ones actually, you know, were easy to blend into his beard area. This one, he had a hard time blending in. So overall, I don't think this is terrible. I'm definitely not going to use it up on my face, but I just think there are better, you know? I just think there are better out there. Next up, number 13, another one from Isntree. This is one of their newer ones, and this is the Purple Protector Onion Newpair sunscreen, which has SPF 40 PA+++. This one has a super cute purple tint that they claim is supposed to neutralize yellow undertones and I think just overall be kind of brightening to your face. I do notice a slight brightening effect, but I don't notice any kind of purpley cast on my skin tone. It just kind of looks like it overall brightens up my skin, which is a really nice effect. Also, I have to mention, I don't know if I'm just looking for an onion smell because it has onion in the name, but I swear as I'm blending this in, okay, it does have a little bit of that chemical sunscreen smell underneath all this, but I swear as I'm blending this in, I get kind of like a sauteed onion kind of aroma coming through. Like, you know when you're sauteing onions and they start to kind of crisp up and maybe burn just slightly? That's what I smell when I apply this. I don't know if that's all in my head or what, but that's there. Anyway, moving on. This is a hybrid formula, so it has mostly old generation chemical filters and titanium dioxide. On me, I don't notice any white cast, but that's just on my very fair skin, so I can only speak to that. But I think that explains why the formula of this one just doesn't feel quite as sophisticated as some of these other higher ranked sunscreens in this showdown. So this does have a very moisturizing feel. It is very emollient, and it is definitely the most glowy of the lineup today. I would say that it's one of those really glowy sunscreens that's like verging on sweaty looking. So if you know what level of glow you like, maybe that sounds super appealing to you. For me, it's a little too greasy looking, especially when it comes to wearing this under makeup. I do find that because it has that kind of greasy, filmy feel on my skin, my makeup just kind of slides around on top. It gets shiny within about 2 hours of applying it, which is very quickly for me, and it just breaks down throughout the day. So I wouldn't mind finishing up this sample maybe on no makeup days or on just really, really dry skin days. I certainly don't mind finishing up this little sample, but it's not something that I would seek out in the future. Okay, at number 12, we have the Sunkiller Perfect Water Essence. This one has SPF 50+, PA 4+, so another really good high SPF rating. This is a hybrid sunscreen, so it has a mix of new and old generation chemical filters plus titanium dioxide. I noticed zero cast from this one, and same goes for all of these. You can just assume I don't have any. I have not gotten a white cast from any of these, but of course your results may vary depending on your skin tone. This one has a citrus scent. It does contain parfum as fragrance. The citrus scent really doesn't bother me. It's quite mild to me, and I don't feel like it lingers on my skin, but it is scented, so just know that. This one, I feel like I sound like a broken record, but it also, like many of these, has a gel cream texture, sinks into my skin very easily, has a very skin-like finish. It's really not super glowy or super matte, just somewhere in the middle, but it doesn't feel heavy or leave like any kind of film on my skin. And my makeup applied and wore pretty well over this. It applied really smoothly, and it wore well for the majority of the day, probably up until like the 6 to 8 hour mark. I did notice it started to look just a little bit worn and a little bit dry, but really not terrible. There was one time I wore this on a very active day. We went hiking, and it did burn my eyes that time, but that's the only time it burned my eyes. So maybe that was a fluke, but I did want to note that it seems like it might burn your eyes. Maybe if you get it too close to your eyes, if you apply too much around your eyes, I don't know. But this one is just not my top favorite, but it's definitely a great option. Like now that we're at number 12 now, which is still pretty far down on the list, but at this point most of these are still like really solid options. This is definitely one that I would happily use up on my face, but probably wouldn't repurchase it just because there are even better. Okay, a couple of interesting ones up next at number 11 and number 10. Both of these are from the brand Suncut. So at number 11, I have here the Suncut UV Perfect Gel, SPF 50+, PA 4+. This one is entirely chemical. The problem with this one, and the reason why I'm ranking it so low, is that it stings my eyes. Like, this is an eye stinger. Both of these are, sadly. I think that probably is because of the octinoxate in both of these. That's the only old chemical filter that these have, but I think that's the ingredient that's stinging my eyes. This does have some good things going for it though. It's water resistant and fragrance free. I did find it to sink into my skin really nice and quickly, but it definitely wasn't moisturizing enough on its own. Under makeup, I did find that my makeup just looked a little bit dry. It just didn't provide enough moisture for my skin. So this is definitely one that I would have to pair with another moisturizer underneath. But again, because it stings my eyes, it's just really not going to be my go-to for the face. This one also smells so strongly of alcohol. It does contain ethanol, but when I'm applying this, I smell straight up tequila. It does smell strongly of alcohol, and I think that might have something to do with why I feel like this dries out my skin. But like I said, it's water resistant, and this comes in a bigger size as well. So this to me would make a great body sunscreen, and that is how I plan to use this up, because I'm always looking for a good water-resistant body sunscreen for the summertime, and this is something that I would happily apply to my body every day, and it doesn't feel like you're wearing sunscreen. So that is what I think is great about this one. But really, the goal of this video was to find good face sunscreens, so that's why I had to rank it lower. But don't love it for the face, do love it for the body. And I feel kind of the same way about my number 10, which is the Suncut UV Perfect Essence. And this also has SPF 50+, PA4+. Now, I will say I found conflicting ingredient lists across different retailers and also on that website Isntree Decoder. Is that how you say it? So I'm going off of what is on the YesStyle website because that's where I got this, and so I'm going to assume that that's correct. But just know, it's kind of hard to know. I don't know why the ingredient list is so different depending on where you look. That's very confusing. This one I would say is mildly glowy when the air is dry, but it is actually pretty shiny when the air is humid. But I did love the texture of this. I found it very weightless and easy to blend in. Actually, I was gonna say that one smells less like alcohol than the other. I thought this one did, but now I'm second guessing that because they kind of both smell equally alcohol-y to me. So anyway, just if you're trying to avoid ethanol in your sunscreens, then just know that these both contain that. It's actually really hard to figure out the difference between these two as far as like the way they perform. I feel like they both apply very similarly. Neither one is quite moisturizing enough on its own, but this one again is also water resistant, and it also does come in a larger size than this. This is already a pretty big size, but I would definitely consider purchasing the full size of this. I think if I had to choose between these two for a body sunscreen, I would probably go with the UV Perfect Essence in the squeeze tube, just because I like the squeeze tube packaging a little bit better. So again, I have worn this on the body and I loved it. It doesn't feel like sunscreen. Dries down super quickly. So same deal with this one. I love it on the body, but it's not my go-to for the face because it just burns my eyes so badly. Again, probably because of the octinoxate. Another one that tragically burned my eyes, even though I really like it otherwise, this is the Verdio UV Moisture Gel. This one has SPF 50+, PA4+. This one has so many great things about it. It's water resistant, it's fragrance free, no alcohol. This is a hybrid sunscreen, so it has some old and new chemical filters as well as titanium dioxide. But this one also contains octinoxate, which I think is what burns my eyes. So I think that's the ingredient that I just need to stay away from now on with face sunscreens, because it seems that sunscreens with octinoxate tend to burn my eyes. It's a bummer though, because there have been sometimes I've used this where it hasn't burned at all, and then there are other times where it was just like, you know the feeling. If you know, when it's just like, you can't even focus on anything else because your eyes are just like, yeah, that's what this did to me one time, and so that's when it got knocked down the list. But the reason I'm so bummed about that is that this has a really nice feel and texture. It has kind of like a milky gel sort of consistency. It's a little bit runny, but not like a straight up liquid. It's mildly glowy, but not sticky at all. And I had no problems with it under makeup either. So maybe this is one that I would use up on my face, but just be super, super careful around the eye area. But yeah, I really do like this one, except for the eye burning. That's like the only thing I don't like about it. Then at number 8, so we are getting into the territory of the sunscreens that contain only new generation chemical filters. So these are those filters that are approved and perfectly safe to use in other countries, but the US is just behind. So they're not technically approved as sunscreen filters in the US, but I feel perfectly safe using them. So It's also no coincidence that these are my top ranked ones, because I do find that the sunscreens with those new generation chemical filters tend to just be the most cosmetically elegant, the least likely to sting the eyes, and yeah. So that brings us to number 8. This is the Barr Centella Soothing Sun Essence. First of all, I want to mention the packaging. This has a really interesting paper tube, and it even has a little notch here where you can tear it open when you're almost done with it. It says you can use the remaining amount when you cut open this part. So you can either cut it or maybe even tear it. I don't know. I'm not going to do it right now because it's almost full. But it has that, which you guys know I love any kind of packaging that facilitates using up the product in its entirety. I love that. And so really have to give them a 10 out of 10 for innovation on the packaging. Now, I don't know how well this travels. I haven't taken it with me on the go. I will say it doesn't feel like the most durable tube, but I don't know. I would probably err on the side of having this be my like at-home sunscreen. I don't know if I would want to put this in like my beach bag or something, just because I don't know how well this would hold up. If any of you have tried this one and you have traveled with it or taken it with you places, did the packaging hold up? I would love to know, because if so, that would be amazing. This one I really, really like. It feels very gentle. It actually reminds me of my top sunscreen from last year, which was the Iunique Centella Calming Daily Sunscreen. I actually have it right here because I've been comparing old ones to new ones too. And it reminds me a lot of that one. Now I want to say I got Nathan to try, my partner, if you're new here, Nathan is my partner. I got him to try the Iunique Centella Calming Daily Sunscreen, and he did not like it at all. He said it wouldn't blend into his beard very well, and it just felt too heavy. I thought that was so funny, because to me this is like, this was my favorite. It won 2 separate showdowns last year, and I was shocked that he didn't like it, because it only has new filters in it. It's, in my opinion, it's one of the best sunscreens ever, but that gave me a slightly new perspective on it. So he felt the same exact way about the Barr. So I'm just gonna let you know, if you have tried the Iunique and you liked it, you'll probably like the Barr. If you've tried the Iunique and you didn't like it, you found it too heavy, you might feel the same way about the Barr. That's all I can really say on that. So for this one, depending on the humidity, it either has like a tiny bit of glow and really like no film at all, or it can have a little bit of a glowy, slightly shiny film that it leaves on the skin. But I don't mind that. Like, it still feels very lightweight to me, but I don't have facial hair except for like eyebrows. So yeah, I don't know. Can you tell it kind of blew my mind when I got Nathan to try this? I was like, you're gonna love this one. And he's like, ew, I hate it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? No. So anyway, from now on, I'm gonna have him try every sunscreen that I review, because I'm like, he has completely different taste in sunscreen than I do, apparently. Makeup wears well on top. I did notice that it got a little bit shiny by like the 6-hour mark in the T-zone, but really that's pretty typical for me, and I don't mind a little bit of shine. As long as my makeup still looks good, I'm fine with it. And yeah, I really like this one, but as you can see, I did rank it a little bit lower because I wanted to take Nathan's reviews into account as well, especially because I know some of you may have facial hair, may have different preferences. Anyway, that's the Barr Centella Soothing Sun Essence. I do think this is really nice in that it's fragrance free. It has no alcohol. It feels really, really nice and gentle on my sensitive skin, but I will note that it is not water resistant. Oh, and the last thing, Nathan complained about the smell of this, and I'm like, what smell? I have a very strong sense of smell, okay? And I'm like, what are you picking up on that I'm not? I don't smell anything. I don't smell a single thing when I sniff this, like nothing. So take that for what you will, because I don't know what to make of that. Nothing. I can't pick up on any smell. All right, number 7. It was really hard to piece apart the differences between these top 8, like the top half. That's why it took so long to get this video out. I originally wanted to have this video out for you guys in June. I think it's going to be going up first week of July, and that's not too shabby considering, wow, how hard it was to figure out how to rank these. So coming in at number 7, we have the Benton Cica Gel Sunscreen. Mine says sunscreen serum on the tube, but it looks like the ones that they're selling now don't have the word serum anymore. It's just called the Cica Gel Sunscreen. I am assuming that the formula hasn't changed because the packaging is exactly the same except for that one word difference. The description is the same. And they sent this to me in PR like in December, so like 6 months ago. I highly doubt that they changed the formula since then. If they were sending it out in PR only 6 months ago, I think it's reasonable to assume that the formula is the same. All the ingredient lists look the same that I found online, so we're just gonna go with that. This one is fragrance free and it also does not contain denatured alcohol. I did pick up on the slightest scent. I don't think they added any like fragrance ingredients to it. I think it's just coming from the ingredients themselves, but kind of smells like almond extract to me. Very, very mild smell and it doesn't linger on my skin, but I just want to point that out. Depending on the humidity, I either get a tiny bit of glow with this one or more like more of a medium amount of glow in my T-zone. And my makeup does get just a little bit shiny with this throughout the day while also breaking down a little bit on the sides of my nose. I did get Nathan to try this one. He didn't mind it, but he didn't love it. I think he said it felt a little bit heavy on his face and it wasn't the greatest for blending into facial hair. So not the absolute best of the lineup today, but definitely a good option. I really like it. I will happily use this one up. In the number 6 spot, I have the Heimish Moringa Ceramide Watery Sunscreen. This is a hyaluronic hydrating sunscreen with SPF 50+, PA 4+. Right off the bat, this one does have a fragrance to it. It does contain parfum. And to me, actually, I find the scent really pleasant. Nathan didn't care for it. I thought it smelled kind of like a warm amber sort of aroma. I like it. But if you're avoiding fragrance, then just know it does have fragrance in it. Based on the name Watery Sunscreen, I expected this to be super liquidy and watery, but it's really just a gel, sort of gel cream, just like all of these other ones. But this one sinks in immediately and leaves behind just like a medium amount of glow, just somewhere in the middle. Not matte, a little bit glowier than just natural skin-like, you know? So it's like in the middle. If there were to be a scale from like matte to so glowy you look sweaty, this one is like right smack dab in the middle. On a dry day, I do need to wear moisturizer under this one, and it looks good under makeup, but sometimes it can just look a little bit dry. So I can mitigate that by wearing a moisturizer underneath, but it's still just not my favorite underneath makeup. I do think that this is a really solid option if you don't wear makeup, or if you do wear makeup but you have really oily skin, you might really enjoy this. I like it. I will happily use it up. Really all of these top 8 I will gladly use up or have Nathan help me use up the ones that he likes. I think Nathan, the main thing he didn't like about this was the smell, but I think it blended in okay to his facial hair, but maybe he just thought it felt a little bit too thick or something. Sounded like he didn't really have an interest in trying this one again, so I will probably be the one to use this one up. But yeah, I don't know. I think it could be good for some people, maybe not good for others, which I mean, I guess you could say that about any product, but there you go. All right, number 5. Ooh, top 5. Okay, this is the Goodal Heartleaf Calming Moisture Sun Cream. One that was recommended by a few of you guys to try. A few of these were requested by you guys to try, but this one, I've heard really good things about this brand. First of all, I love the packaging. I love this pretty light green tube. I just think it's so cute, but of course that is beside the point. This is another gel cream consistency type of sunscreen. This one on a humid day can feel a little bit heavy on the skin, but then on a dry day, it feels like nothing. So can you tell why I have just been pulling my hair out over some of these sunscreens? Like, it is just so hard to determine the differences between all of these different new generation filter sunscreens. Like, they're all so similar. So take all of this with a grain of salt. I'm just giving as many details as I can to hopefully help you make the most informed purchase that you can. But to me, again, really depends on the humidity, but it does have a slightly glowy finish that to me is not over the top. It's not like a sweaty looking finish. I don't find that my makeup always looks the greatest on top of this compared to my top 4, but for non-makeup wearers, if you're looking for something hydrating, I do think this one is delightful, and it's another one that I will gladly finish up. And this one is also fragrance free, no denatured alcohol, but is not water resistant, unfortunately. On to the top 4. This next one is actually my top ranked water resistant option. So if you're looking for a good water resistant face sunscreen, I think this is the best of all the ones I've tried. So this is the Face Republic Purity Sun Essence, SPF 50+, PA 4+, water resistant. I already said that, but I just want to reiterate because I just think it's really impressive that this is water resistant. This one does have an herbal scent that I don't love, but it's also not the worst. Nathan didn't mind the smell at all, so I guess he and I have kind of opposite noses when it comes to scents. It does have added fragrance in the form of Artemisia vulgaris oil, which I looked it up. Apparently that is the same thing as mugwort oil. I don't like that smell, but luckily the scent, I only smell it as I'm applying it and it doesn't linger. This has a texture very similar to many of these other sunscreens. Lightweight, gel-like cream, sinks in very quickly, also blended in well to Nathan's facial hair, and it leaves behind just kind of like a medium amount of glow, again, just somewhere in the middle of the glowiness spectrum. I do find that I have to wear a moisturizer underneath this one, especially if I'm wearing makeup, because sometimes my makeup can just look a little bit dry over this, but as long as I wear just a lightweight moisturizer underneath, which lately I've been using the Ilia Base Face Milk, which is like a milky toner slash lotion. That plus this is a great combo. So that's what I've been doing, and I have great luck with it. So despite its shortcomings, I do think that this is the best water-resistant face sunscreen that I've tried. I will definitely use this up, and I really like that it's water resistant. Another one from Benton. This is their AirFit UV Defense Sun Cream. I've had generally pretty good luck with Benton sunscreens. Even their mineral sunscreen that I tried a year or two ago, I actually thought it was decent for a mineral sunscreen, and I don't really like mineral sunscreens. So this has SPF 50+, PA 4+. It does contain fragrance in the form of rosemary leaf oil, which I do notice the smell. To me, it kind of smells, both of these actually, this and the Face Republic both smell quite similar to me. They both kind of smell like pine sol, like the cleaning product. It's not bad, and I only smell it as I'm applying it, but it doesn't really linger on my skin. Like, I don't notice it throughout the day. It does have a green tint coming out of the bottle. They don't seem to claim that that is supposed to color correct or anything, and it really does just blend in clear. I really don't notice any kind of, I don't know, maybe just like the slightest color correcting property, but it's very hard to say. They also claim that this has a cooling property to it, which I guess I noticed that it feels a little bit cooling and refreshing, but I feel like any kind of like gel that you're applying to your face is going to feel cooling. I wouldn't have noticed that if they hadn't mentioned it, but I guess, like, yeah, they say it's supposed to provide a cooling and moisturizing and calming effect. Maybe I noticed that just slightly. So this has a medium glowy finish that is really not over the top at all to me. I did have Nathan try this one. I actually had him side by side test both of these Benton ones, and he preferred the green one significantly over the blue one. Yeah, he really enjoyed this one. So it blended into his facial hair well. It didn't feel heavy on him. I had no issues wearing this under makeup, except that on a dry day, I do need to pair a moisturizer underneath it, or else I'll get just a little bit of dryness around my nose, which is typically how it goes, like around the nose, chin, like just like the lower half of my face. That's where I notice the most dryness. So if I check the humidity for a given day and I notice it's going to be super low humidity, I'll just wear a moisturizer underneath this, no big deal. So yeah, that's my number 3. I thought it was really good. Okay, number 2. Oh, it's always so exciting when we get to like the top 2. Okay, number 2 is the Hyggee Vegan Sun Cream. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I know the word Hyggee is actually, like in Danish, it's pronounced Hyggee or something like that. I'm just going to pronounce it Hyggee because the way it's spelled with 2 E's, I'm kind of assuming that's how they want you to pronounce it. Anyway, this is another one with SPF 50+, PA 4+. Unfortunately, it is fragrance-free. Unfortunately, it does contain alcohol. But to me, it's when things contain alcohol, it really seems to depend a lot on just the formulation overall. Because something could contain denatured alcohol and cause me no problems, and then something else could contain denatured alcohol and be super drying. So it really depends. I think it's kind of one of those things you just kind of have to try and see, unless you just know that anything with denatured alcohol irritates your skin. Like with many of these, the finish and feel of this really depends heavily on how humid of a day it is. I've had some days where this feels like nothing on my skin, and I've had other days where It feels very lightweight, but it almost leaves behind like a little bit of a tacky feel, which I actually really liked that under makeup because it almost seemed to have like a gripping property to my makeup. So for makeup, I think this is a really, really good one. My makeup always applies smoothly and wears a really surprisingly long time when I use this sunscreen. So for makeup days, this is just fantastic. I love it. You can definitely see why it's my number 2 pick. I think it's really amazing. It just has a little bit of a thicker feel than some of these other ones. Like a lot of these I've described as a gel. This one is more of a cream. Like it's just a little bit thicker. But despite it being a little bit thicker, Nathan did really like this one. It worked well in his facial hair. It has like no fragrance, like I said. It does have a little bit of like a doctor's office smell, probably from the alcohol, but it doesn't smell, it's really not a strong smell at all. I'm just trying to point out any smell I can pick up on because I know everybody's sensitive to different smells, but yeah, I don't notice a smell. I don't think Nathan mentioned a smell with this one. So anyway, that is the Hyggee vegan sunscreen number 2. Really happy with this one. And that brings us to number 1. This one surprised me because I have not been super impressed with Isntree sunscreens historically. Like all of the ones I've tried, and I've tried quite a few of them, they've just been kind of okay. Like they haven't been terrible, but they haven't been great. But this one is the exception. This is another one of their newer ones, and it's the Onion Fresh Fluid Sun Cream. This one has SPF 50 plus PA 4 pluses, and of all the Isntree sunscreens I've tried, this is the only one that contains only new generation chemical filters. So that's probably why I like it so much. I don't know why it took them so long to get on that bandwagon, but now that they have, I'm very happy because this is amazing. It is what I'm wearing under my makeup right now as well. This is so nice. Both Nathan and I agreed. This one is just a delight to apply. It is actually the runniest of all of these. It is truly like a fluid. So it's true to the name. Very weightless. Feels almost like velvety going on, but not in a drying way whatsoever. I don't get any dryness with this. This is fragrance free and also free of denatured alcohol. So yeah, they really checked off a lot of boxes with this one. The only thing missing is that it's not water resistant, but I don't think any Isntree sunscreens are water resistant. On a very dry day, I do like to apply a lightweight moisturizer underneath this, but I'm also able to get away with no moisturizer under this other days. It really just depends. But it serves as a beautiful base under makeup. My makeup goes on top so smoothly. It almost acts like a makeup primer. And yeah, it just gives me this like hydrated yet velvety smooth base. My makeup wears shockingly well on top of this. I've gotten amazing wear time out of my makeup when I'm wearing this. And I also just think the bottle is super cute with the purple lid. This one I don't get any kind of onion smell. I know I mentioned like a burnt sauteed onion smell with the Onion Newpair sunscreen. This one I don't get any onioniness from it. It does have kind of like that doctor's office smell that I just mentioned. I guess maybe that smell is coming from the sunscreen filters because I have noticed that smell with other Asian chemical sunscreens before. But it's really not bad. It's really not noticeable. It definitely doesn't linger on my face. I only really notice it as I'm applying it. So I'm so happy with this one. I'm always so excited when we finally get to my number 1 pick because, I mean, obviously it had to beat 15 other sunscreens, so it better be good. But that is my tippy top favorite. I would say if you are looking for something water resistant, then my next best pick would be the Face Republic Purity Sun Essence. So those are kind of my top 2 right now. And if you're wondering how these compare to the Iunique Centella Calming Daily Sunscreen, at this point I would rank the Iunique at the same exact level as the Barr, which was number 8. So I guess it's moved a little bit down in the rankings, mainly because I got Nathan to try it and he didn't care for it. I still think this is fantastic, especially for dry, sensitive skin. That's really what I think both of these are good for. So that's kind of where I'm at with those, if you're wondering how they compare to my number 1 from last year. Anyway, guys, those are all the sunscreens that I have been obsessing over for the last like 6 months of my life. Again, if you choose to purchase any of these or anything else from YesStyle, They have so many cool products on there. Feel free to use my 15% off discount code. And again, if you do shop through any of those affiliate links down below, that does mean I'll earn a small commission, which I so appreciate if you do. Really does help my channel out a bunch. So thank you again to YesStyle for sponsoring this video and providing all these sunscreens for me to test, and also allowing me to just say whatever I want, basically. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll talk to you very soon. Bye.